Welcome, first of all, welcome to my channel. I'm better known as the Crazy Sock Lady. And we decided that we were going to do something completely different from what I've had on my channel. And that is to interview some of the people that have been inspirational to me on this run journey that I've been on for the last 3 years. And the first person I was like, you know what? Who is better than to pick the person who was my mentor? And he is here with us all the way from, you're in North Carolina?
Yes.
Originally from the East Coast,
But
like
we're still on the East
Jersey.
Coast, though. We're still on
Yeah,
the East Coast,
I
just
guess
further south.
not.
From New York, New Jersey, originally, yes. But now here in Charlotte.
Tahir Bradley.
Woo!
Woo! So, like I was saying, I wanted to do something quite different than what I've had on my channel. And I wanted to just introduce some of my inspirations, some people who have guided me along the journey. And he was the first person when I joined some of our groups. Like, I'm in Black Girls Run, and I'm also in Black Runners Connect. And so when I got in Black Runners Connect, I was asking every question there could be about new runners, shin splints, IT bans. I was asking all the questions. And one of the things was I was like, who can help me? And first, I don't know what happened, but I remember maybe somebody saying, hey, here's some people that may be able to be like mentors. And I was
Mhm.
like, cool. So I like messaged maybe I think it was maybe 3 or 4 people, and I
Mhm.
messaged you and you hit me back, and I was like, for free. And so he has been my mentor in running since I started back in 2000 no 2020. I started in
Yeah.
2020 to here. Thank you so
Mhm.
much.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if you could
Last
just
year.
kind of tell us a little bit about you, your background, why you started running, how long you've been running, and then we'll go from there.
My background, really, it started way back when I was freshman in high school. So I literally started running probably the first day of school. So
Wow.
um, I've done other sports, baseball, and that kind of thing. But the running, actually being on an organized running thing, started cross country freshman year, first day. So we're talking 30 years ago, actually. Yeah, 30 years ago.
Okay. Wow.
Um, yeah, so I started, and then within a week, I had my first freshman race, and I came second overall. I was like, "Oh, I'm hooked. Yeah, let's do this." So yeah, so I
You were
started
doing
running.
track and field, or were you doing long distance back then?
I did. I started off my debuted in cross country, so we're talking 5Ks and that kind of thing. So I started off with 5Ks, and then of course I did track and field. I did the whole thing: cross
Mhm.
country, indoor track, outdoor track, summer track, Junior Olympics. Yeah, I just kept been running. Then of course all the way up to college, where I was ran cross country there as well, and ran the 800 meters 4x4, and what else did I do? 4x8, and 800 meters and 1600 meters was my thing in college.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
So you are an expert,
I
pretty much.
wouldn't say I'm an expert. I'm very
So
experienced. Yes.
okay. You are an experienced expert. I mean, because so what I think of it is like mastery.
Hmm.
So you do something for a long amount of time and you do it well. And we haven't even talked about y'all like how well he runs, but if you do it a long enough time and you do it well, I think that you become an expert. And you don't have to be like an elite runner. You don't have to be
No.
um somebody out here doing Olympics, but I definitely see you as an expert. So
I mean,
he's my mentor.
yeah, I always tell people, like, no matter what level you are, you learn from everybody from every level. I mean, I learn from everybody. So I don't care if you've been in the game for 2 months, a year, to 15, 20 years. I'm always learning something from everybody, and vice versa. Like, experienced as I am, I still have people that either coach me, that help me
Mhm.
be better. Just because I know anything doesn't mean that I know everything.
Right.
So, I'm always learning from people who are like me, who are either as fast as me or faster, or even slower than me. There's things I need to learn in terms of recovery stuff that I'm learning. And like I had a 36-minute session with Meb Complexity running 5K with him in Boston a year ago. That still resonates with me, and
Wow.
on recovery. So that I've been focused on recovery ever since, based on the conversation we had. Specifically, that was his whole focus on recovery. I don't care how many long runs you have, recovery, 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 especially at our age. So
Mm.
and that's the person I'm definitely gonna listen to, because he's if you're talking about
Okay, so
expert, that would be him.
the new runners, we have this thing where we're always looking at our watch. We're always so concerned with pace because I
Mhm,
think that's the temperature. Like when you come into this long distance thing, it's always like you see a post and somebody's like, "Oh, I ran a 8-minute mile or 9-minute mile or
mhm,
6-minute mile." And so new runners come in and we're like, "Okay, so in order for me to be a runner, I've got to run a certain pace." And when I got started, I was running 17 because I was walking a lot of it.
mhm,
And I was like, oh, this is not good enough. And so then I would look at somebody else's posts on Instagram or Facebook, and I'm like, oh, why am I not running? Not realizing, which is common sense,
mhm.
that if you're starting out, there's no way that you can be running at this pace, especially if you're 45 like me.
Right.
And so you were like, just get out there and run. Just run, be consistent in running. So before I get to asking you your opinion, I want the people to know like your fastest mile because
I mean, it's different stages in my life, but my fastest mile ever is 4:30. So,
are you freaking kidding me?
well, no.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, that's my
How long
fastest
ago
mile.
was that?
That was high school and college. I mean, I can probably, now that I'm in shape, I could probably get back down to low five, maybe break 5 minutes in a mile. Plan on running another mile race, but that won't be till next year. To see where I'm really at in the mile. But I can probably run. I think I can get down sub 5 for a mile again now.
That is
Now I
insane.
don't think I do 4:30, but I can get. I think I can get like 4:58.
Listen, okay, and tell the people how old you are.
46.
Okay. So that brings this. So I'm sure you saw Kevin Hart talking about him trying to race the NFL player. And he said something. I was like, that is not true. You just got out there and was trying to show your butt. So he was like,
Right.
oh, age, you can't gotta sit my ass down because my age. And I was like, no, my mentor. Yeah. And so for people who think like Kevin Hart, like what was the mistake? Would you say regarding that injury? I already know, but I just want to know what you think.
It's funny. I had a conversation. Speaking of that, with my coach actually about that very exact line today. And I was like, that's not true. But here's the thing. Remember, I always tell you about staying in your lane, know your lane, stay in your lane. You're going against a professional, which his job is to run a 40 in a certain amount of time. And I don't, Kevin Hart is, he's tried to do sub 4. Mind you, I passed him in Chicago. But we'll go back to that
You ran 2018? Yes. Okay.
later. So that's a whole nother thing. But you have to know your limits, and if you have to know your body too. So if you haven't ran against somebody, if you're actually go all out, you can go all out, but if your body hasn't trained for it, you can't expect it to do it. I mean, come on, tearing your abdominal, that means you were doing so many things wrong. I would like to see what his form was when he was running, because I'm sure it was off. He was using all the wrong muscles, trying to keep up with a guy who's that's his profession.
Hmm.
That's his profession. You have to know your limits. You shouldn't put yourself in a hospital for the 40 yard. I mean, that was all ego, and he just went.
Right. Because he did this with Michael Phelps before, and I think it was somebody. I
First
don't
off, with Michael Phelps, he cheated because remember he was wearing some fins when he was doing it
know.
underwater. Michael Phelps called him out on it, but that's a whole nother thing. he tried to do it as Usain Bolt, but Usain Bolt gave him a big lead before he ran, and they were running on the beach. So I mean, all fun and games and all, but you have to know your limits. You can't put yourself in a situation where you're not prepared for it. If you prepare for it, if he was
Mhm.
training for it, knowing
Right,
that he's going against this guy, but he said, "Hey, let's go run next week, and let's go just run it." No, no. Now he's gonna have jokes for days because he did
right,
something. You have to know your limits. There's no point in doing a little race or any race that put yourself in injury or
right,
putting yourself in hospital for what? I mean,
right.
what are you gaining out of that? I mean, it's
So
a
much
lot of people,
abuse.
and then and that goes with new runners too. People like, oh, I was so great in high school and college. I used to do this, this, and that. Never ran in 20, 30 years. I think they could just start from day one,
Mhm.
just go out there and do what they were doing when they were 20, and now they're 45, 50. No, you have to start over and take baby steps. You got to figure
Mhm.
out what your body condition actually is at this point.
Right.
Um, and not only that, you got to make sure you wear the right shoes because,
Mhm.
back then we would probably wear Converses and running, and we didn't know any better because we had no type of shoes to use. But now we know,
Right.
so don't do that.
Don't don't be like Kevin Hart. Oh, and I
Oh
hope he
man,
he recovers and
oh he
all of
will.
that stuff. But
He needs to stay away from running against professionals. All his friends are professionals, so he
mm,
thinks he can hang and do what they do. But
yeah.
remember, he's a comedian. That's his
Right.
lane. I
Right.
mean, yeah, he works out a lot. He does. He has great people around him, but he needs to just figure out what he really wants to do. Because at one point, he wanted to do sub four in a marathon and like all six majors. I don't know when that went to the wayside after Chicago and New York, but you haven't heard anything back
Oh, he
since.
did too. He
You know,
did Chicago and New York.
and he didn't sub four any of them.
Wow.
He came close in New York, but he went out too fast. He went out like 130, so I was tracking him. And he
Oh,
was
wow.
and he was overdressed, which I don't know how that happened when he has people around him who are professionals could have told him not to do that. Um, and I don't know what happened in Chicago. I don't know if he went out too fast or whatever, but he was looking uncomfortable at mile 21 when I passed him. So,
When you
um,
asked him.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, he started before me too. So, yeah,
Oh,
I,
wow.
yeah, I ran. I don't even. I ran. That was right before I really started to get fast. I ran 4:02 that day. So
How
I'm
many marathons or well, okay, how many marathons have you done? And then,
mm,
um, are you going after the 6? Are you like okay.
I'm definitely going after the six. My goal is actually to run all six under 4 hours. So, I have to go back and do Chicago this year to fix that 4:02 to make it. New York already took care of it. I'm under four, so I don't have to go back and do
Okay,
it.
so take us back. So you did New York.
Hmm.
You used to stay in New York too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So tell me
But
about
yeah, New
a
York
race.
was my very first ever marathon when I
Okay.
started my marathon journey. I ran that with my mom actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I ran 4:47 a day. She ran 5 hours that day. A little over
Wow.
5 hours. Actually, she ran 5 hours in 3 seconds. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, yeah, and that was many ages. That was before I knew anything about marathon running. As even though I ran high school, and college, ran track, and ran cross country, marathon is a totally different beast. And I was one of those people that thought I could just run some miles and get ready and then run the race. And no, it's a different animal. You have to train differently. And it
Mhm.
it took me probably about 10 years to actually start to really figure out how to train properly for a marathon.
The first one in New York, how old were you when you ran it?
I was oof, 28.
And why did you decide to run that one?
I've always seen it. I watch it. I watch it religiously every year on TV. When I was in New York, I used to go visit, watch it, and I just got the FOMO, and it's just like, I gotta do this. I have to do this at some point. And then my mother was like, okay, we'll do it, and we all start training that whole summer and fall. And honestly, I ran that race, my first race, injured.
Mm.
I had pulled my groin probably 5 weeks before the race. So 2 weeks I couldn't run at all, couldn't move. And again, this is just me not knowing any better, just just running. I just wanted to run it, and I ran 4:47. I ran half injured on one leg, but It was good. I did
Wow.
it. That was
And then
amazing.
after that, when it
Mhm.
was the next time you ran your marathon?
What was the next marathon I did? It was a while. I didn't do too many back then. I wasn't doing too many long distance races. I was doing 10Ks, 5Ks, marathon here or there. I think the next one I did was did I did New York again. I think I did New York again. I did around the same time too,
Mm,
and then took some time off. It wasn't really till probably 6 years ago I really started really training for marathons.
okay, and
Um,
why?
I started to get in the knack of it, and I wanted to start getting to majors and start. It was really when I ran. What was it? I ran my worst marathon in DC, and that was the eye opener. That was the Marine Corps marathon. I ran 5 hours 25 minutes for me,
Mm,
and what I found out at the end of that race, well, actually, not even in. I was at mile 20 when I was struggling, and another African American guy he pulled me and just helped me finish the race. I didn't know there's many of us that was out there. That was skin color
yeah, yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to run. So
'Cause the Marine Corps is in
DC,
Washington, DC?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. It's in October. Usually like second. I want to say like third week in October, third or fourth week in October,
okay.
usually. So I did that one. I finished, and then I started to see a lot more of us there.
Mhm.
And then they started talking about running 50 states. Man, yeah, this guy's running 50 states, or marathon in all 50 states. I didn't know that was a thing. So there's a whole. Even though I was a runner, I didn't even know that. I didn't know these kind of things happen. I didn't know there were groups. That's where I got
Mm,
to Black Marathon Association. I know that was a thing. I was like, are there other groups out there?
mm,
And that's when I got back home and after regrouped, that's when I um, got in touch with Black Men Run and found out about them. And then once I joined that group, that's when I started really, having more consistent running,
mm.
started training for half marathons and marathons. And then that's when I've been doing ever since. Yeah, but running groups and stuff like that, and that's kind of what motivated me to get that. So I want to will qualify for Boston this year. That's why I have two marathons on deck.
Where are you running this year?
Well, I got Chicago again, so I'm taking care of that.
Okay, okay.
That's the second one. The first one's coming in 2.5 weeks in Cottonwood, Utah.
Utah.
So I'll knock that off the checklist.
Okay, so Utah is higher elevation.
But it's a downhill marathon.
Oh, that's the one that's straight downhill. Okay, I've
hmm
heard about that one, and I was like, I
Yeah,
don't know if I would wanna do that.
it's a revel. You gotta make sure you gotta train for that as well.
Yeah.
Just make sure your quads are strong enough, and you train for. I've run hills and stuff like that, so I do a lot of rolling hills. And last year, I actually around this time, exactly a year ago, I ran the Hood to Coast relay, which is going off this weekend actually. And I started off the first leg on the top of Mount Hood, and it's 5.5 miles, but it was an elevation loss of 1,800 feet.
That's insane. Okay, for the new runners out there, what the heck does that mean? Because I
That
know
means you're running downhill. That means you're
a
losing
mountain.
elevation from. So you're starting at 5,000 feet, and you're losing 1,500 feet. That means when you finish, you're like at 3,500 feet.
Wow.
So that's when I say elevation loss. You're
Do
just
you
down.
feel any kind of way? Because I've never done I said I
Mhm.
wanted to go west and do some
Mhm.
races out that way. Does it do anything to your body versus over here east?
I didn't really notice anything like that because one of the things I made sure that I slept, I slept so that
Mhm.
I can do my body regulated in terms. But the race that we started was like in 3 in the afternoon, so it wouldn't affect me that much because it's still 12. I wouldn't have been up anyway.
Mhm.
On the East Coast, I didn't feel anything. The elevation wasn't an issue. Up there, it was just cooler up there. But you did notice as you were going down that it started getting warmer in spots. By the time
Mm.
I finished, I was definitely warmer. Like I had like compression sleeves on to keep me
Mhm.
warm. I had to take them off by the time I was finished. Um, so yeah, you notice it as you were going down. So it was, I mean, I started out and then that race in particular, like I went from running in sleeves to running in long sleeves at 2 o'clock in the morning. So
Wow.
it's just all about changing scenery and stuff like that. But running that allowed me to know how to run that type of race, a downhill race,
Mhm.
properly without burning out your quads, which are important. So it's gonna be
I
a new
know I
experience for me.
listen, I've run some down hills for, like,
Mhm.
a minute, and I still don't know how to do it because 'cause I'm like,
But
I feel like I'm tipping, like I'm tiptoeing, and then if I, like, try to change my stride, I'm, like, stomping, then I'm afraid I'm gonna fall, so I still haven't figured that out
well,
yet.
the biggest thing with downhill is you just let gravity do most of the work. You don't really have to do that because you're going downhill, and science will tell you just go with the flow. You do have to. I would shorten your stride, that kind of thing, just like you would going uphill. And
But
then
see, going down here for me, I feel like my legs are, like, going so fast, and then I'm like, if I don't control them, then I'm gonna fall on my face.
well, it depends how steep it is, but generally, yes, you just go with the flow. Don't lean forward too much because then you will fall. But also don't try to resist it too much because then you're continue doing more work on your
Mm,
legs that you don't have to. Just let gravity do most of the work. Just go with the momentum and just that's all you have to do. Um, it's really that simple, really.
mm,
But right now, most of your races aren't going to be going downhill for miles and
right,
miles anyway. So
right.
you just that's why I say you just don't worry about it, just go with the flow and just don't lean forward too much.
Mhm.
You know, fall on your face. Yeah, but don't at the same time don't try to slow yourself down too much because then you're putting pressure on your quads and yeah, other areas where you really should be going within that fight.
So what is your expectations for Utah?
To do my desired time, and that's pretty much it.
What's your time?
320. So it's a seven. That comes out to a 7:38 per mile pace
Okay.
to be exact.
Okay. And the disclaimer for everybody who's on here that's a new runner,
Mm,
listen. This 7:30 pace and 6 and 5, like, we don't want you to feel like you have to do that. Like, start where you are and progress. If it's a 15-minute mile, start there. Just keep running. If it's 13, like right now, I think I'm at, like, a real easy run is a 13.
mhm.
Um I may can get to 11 in a race. I noticed races though have been really, it's interesting for me. Racing, I will have a faster time and I'm like, how did this happen? You know?
Well, this is a theory we always talk about. It's well, there's a couple things, but the theory is it's also run slower to run fast is actually works. It for a few reasons. One, it keeps your legs very, very, very rested, and recovered. Also, you get extra adrenaline that always happens when you're in the race versus you run on your own or
True.
just running with a group. That will always happen. Um,
I noticed everybody around me is just kind of
mm,
like, woo. So yeah, that makes sense.
but mentally, you're running a race. You're finished. There's an end goal, so it's a different mentality.
Okay.
That naturally happens for everybody. The adrenaline, the nervousness, all that. You don't get that when you're doing, a, I got to practice run. I got to
Right.
go out run
Right.
15 miles, 10 miles, 5
Right.
miles versus the horn goes off. They're playing music. You got
Right.
water stops. You got people cheering you on. You got people running with cheering you on. That excitement, that extra stuff that you don't have, you get in the race, which also gets people in trouble, especially
Right.
new runners, because they get so excited they're running the race and they go out with the people they should be going out with, and they
Right.
die out because they don't know how to manage that excitement and
Hmm.
stay within their zone. Which is the only way you can do that is by doing it more and just practicing, but also make sure you're listening to whether your coaches or whoever giving you advice on how to run. But also, the biggest part is we have to know our bodies,
Hmm.
know our limits. We have to know our bodies. You have to really understand. That's why I always told you. Don't worry about the gadgets. Don't worry about looking at your watch. You have to get in tune with your body and really know um, how well you do it, because
Right.
you can't depend on music and electronics to tell you how you feel. Like our coaches, when I started training a coach, we will have runs where he would tell us to put stickers on our watch, and doing an as you feel run, and you had to tune to listen to your body, not pace. You'd
I
be
know my
surprised.
Norman
Yeah.
sometimes will be like unproductive, and I'm like, there's no way that this one run was unproductive because I feel like this was a hard run. So I'm like, how are you gonna tell me it's unproductive? And then that one time, it was like 10 miles I needed to do. It was training for Chicago, and I went out and I felt horrible. And at mile 7, I was like, I quit because I felt nauseous. I was
Mhm.
dizzy. And I was, like, really upset with myself, but then I talked to you and you were like, "No, that was the right thing to do, cutting it short," because my body was like, "You didn't eat right the last night. You didn't have enough fluids. It was too hot." And I was just like, "Cool." But being a new runner, sometimes you're like, I gotta follow the plan, and the plan says I have to do 10 miles and I failed today. I'm a failure. I'm not gonna." And then Chicago turned out to be great.
Well, yeah, expected. I mean, I had one of those runs about 6 weeks ago. Yeah, actually, and I knew why. I
Yeah.
mean, I said, what did I do? I only got 4 hours of sleep.
Mm,
I didn't do my normal stuff, which is take my Pedialyte the night before.
mm.
I didn't have any of my gels, um, which I don't know why that happened.
You didn't have any while you were running?
I didn't have any of 'em with me, but it was supposed to be easy 16 mile. But what I didn't
Hold on.
anticipate is, yeah.
Wait a minute. I wait a minute. Wait a minute. So I eat a gel every 45 minutes,
Well,
and
yeah,
you
yeah. Usually that's what I do. It I usually have.
miles with nothing.
I mean, I had my energy pills that I usually take,
Uh-huh.
but that's usually not enough. But on this day, it was extremely hot and humid, so that's one time it got to me. If it was like a cool 45, 50 degrees, I wouldn't have been affected by it at all. But
Mm.
the heat in the hills got to me, and I was like, even though it was an easy run, it felt horrible. I finished like 8:45 pace, whatever, but it took me a while to recover. The next week, I did what my normal stuff would do. I had my proper sleep. I had my recovery on point. I had my gels with me, and I had a faster run and a longer run, and it felt better than the 16-mile run that I did the week before.
How important is sleeping? Because I don't think people
Sleeping
realize.
is part of recovery. It is way, way, way important. I still have to work on that.
Yeah.
That's part of recovery. You have to get, and especially if you have like a long run or you have a race the next day, make sure you get 7 to 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
You need your sleep. It's good for your body. It helps your body recover, and you're not tired. Sleep is part of the recovery. It is very, very important. You can't function correctly if you're averaging 4 to 5 hours of sleep.
Mm-mm.
You just can't. I mean, you could try. It may work for a while, especially if you're a little bit younger than 40
Yeah.
something,
Right.
but it's going to catch up with you. I mean, if
Yeah.
you want your best, your maximum best, you have to get your sleep. You have to recover. You can't, that's why easy runs are very important, because it, as we get older, it takes a longer time for us to recover in general, and we
Hmm.
have to be mindful of that.
And what's an easy run? Because some people out here running the same pace every time.
Yeah, which is not an easy run. That's not an easy run. Which also means that on race day they're running the exact same time they were running throughout the week. Why? Because your body is not recovered. It running on tired legs. A recovery run in simple tense. I mean, people who don't know anything about pace right now, don't worry about it. But it's really to make it simple for easy for new runners. Is what we're doing right now. We're talking. That's a good recovery run. Is we call it where we're able to talk and run
Hmm.
at the same time. If you're not
Hmm.
able to do that, you're huffing and puffing. You're going too fast.
Mm.
So you have to be, if you could talk, like you have a casual conversation like we're having right now and run at the same time, then that is an easy run. That is
I,
the easy run.
it took me. Sometimes I still mess it up.
Hmm.
I thought when I became a runner, it was sprinting. Like that's all I thought that running was, because I
Mhm.
think that's what you see maybe on social media, and then like growing up, that's what I didn't really understand long distance running at all. Like, and I
Right.
still am learning because I'm like, oh, it's okay for me to, and I know you don't walk as much, but sometimes I'm like, yo, I'm gonna stop and then take a picture. Like,
Mhm.
and yeah, but some people make it seem like, oh, if you walk or if you stop, like you're not a runner.
No, no, that's not the case. I've races where I've walked in a race, and you know, I mean, there are parts when I cramp up. I gotta walk. What I'm supposed to do?
Right. Right.
I'm still finishing, right? Some people finish faster walking and running than they do people who just try to run the whole thing. So,
Some lady told me, she was like, oh, she was doing this walk run thing interval and she qualified for Boston. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, wow, okay.
I
So,
mean, that's a different, but I'm guarantee you that parts that she's running pretty fast.
right.
So it's
Right.
not like she's doing a casual run, talking, and then stopping and walking. No, she's
Right.
probably moving those intervals pretty fast,
Right.
and it averages out with the walk. And her walks may not be slow either. So it's
Right.
a lot. It's a lot into that. I wouldn't say that's the normal thing for a lot of people. I know
Mhm.
some people can do it, but um, you want to get to the part where you're able to run more than you are to walk.
Yeah.
Doesn't use walking as a crutch, but it doesn't make you a not runner.
Right.
Some people
Right.
will just walk the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's
Then
it's
you'd be
relative.
8 hours later.
That's actually harder to do than actually running. Running for 4 hours, I think, because you're
Yeah.
on your feet
Yeah.
literally for 8 hours. That is just painful to me.
Yeah, I would
Painful.
agree because I was like, me finishing Chicago in 6 whatever, 6:20 or 6:30, whatever I finished. I was like, I would have liked it if I could have done it faster because I would have been done. But the blisters, the
Yeah.
all of the other things that happen when you're out there on your feet for such a long time.
Hmm.
I I at first, after I finished Chicago, I was like, I don't know if I want to run another one. But then, like you said, once you get into the community, it's like you see everybody and everybody's setting goals, and you don't know. Like, I didn't know there was a whole 6-star like marathon thing. I didn't know that you can go 6 different places. And I was like, what? Oh, maybe I do want to do that. I don't
Yeah.
really I don't think I wanna do it, but I do wanna go to London, um, and we'll see after that if I wanna go somewhere else, but
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
There's always you're gonna have other things. I want to do the Lolo challenge, which everybody's doing this weekend. I'm like, oh, Phil.
What's that?
The Lolo Challenge. That's in Puerto Rico, which is happening right now, actually, as we speak. Where they have a 5K one night, they have a 10K the next day, and finish with a 13.1, the half marathon. All that's the Lolo Challenge. Yeah, so that
That's
started
ni
yesterday. So 5K was yesterday. 10K was today, and tomorrow's the half.
that's nice.
Yeah,
I didn't know about that. That
yeah,
sounds
see,
really
yeah.
nice.
I'm
Like
planning
the
to do that
Jamaica
next year.
one. I wanna do that one.
Yeah,
Everybody says the Jamaica one is fun. Have you ever done
yeah.
that one?
No, you talk about the reggae marathon one.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't done that one yet. Have you done Miami yet?
No, and I don't want to because Florida is a whole 'nother part of the world that's, like, insane. The humidity is worse.
Well, the time of year is not usually that bad. Like I do the half, I would never do a full, and I have no plan to ever do a full in Florida just because of that
Yeah.
same reason. But the half is the vibe is pretty. It's great. Be able to run South Beach for half the race is pretty cool. Um, yeah, so past the Cleveland, they're at mile 4 and stuff like that, and they have great amenities when we finish, like like
Party.
full size Gatorades, pancakes, and
Oh, wow.
quinoa salads, and yeah, it was a whole vibe. And the metal
Wow.
was cool because it spins and everything else, and it's
Oh,
like
nice.
yeah, so and it's like usually a week right after the Super Bowl. It's usually
Okay.
so that time of year is usually not too bad, but
Okay.
and they
I
use
have
salt.
coming up, I still have to register before it goes away. Chicago half, the one
Oh,
that has the big old plate size.
oh, I've done that one.
You
That
did
was,
it
oh yeah, I've done that
on the
one.
lake?
Yes, I've done
How
that
was
one.
it?
Oh my god, that was the heavy metal. I was worried about it getting through customs. I was trying to get back. It's huge. When I did it though, it was probably one of the hottest half marathons I've ever done. Um, my goal was to run 2 hours that day. I was still trying to break 2 hours at that point, but the weather wasn't kind that day. It was like 85 at
Oh,
the start of the race, and there wasn't a lot of shade out there
yeah,
where the lake
the
was.
lake
Yeah,
sure drives, there's
yeah,
hardly any trees.
yeah,
Dang.
yeah. So that was keep that considered that. So that took that around to do. I ended up doing like 2:14 or whatever that day. But I was
Mm,
there for the whole week, so I enjoyed it after that. But you finish, you get that big behind medal, and then they had ice cream and I think beer in my other hand at the same time. So yeah, I did enjoy
um,
the ice cream because it was so hot that day when I finished. So
okay. I'm
yeah,
hoping it's not hot at all. I'm hoping it's a nice 70. Chicago for me was perfect. We
mm.
started out in 50s, no rain. It was perfect. I
It's
think what
funny. Every marathon last year was great except New York. New York was hot, and that was a later one, so that was weird.
uh
Yeah,
okay,
so
you never told us how many like total how many
15, 15
15
marathon. Yeah.
minutes. Dang. Okay, and then races just you don't even have a number for.
That's I can't even.
Do
That's
you race every weekend or do you race twice a month?
no, but no, I used to race all the time, but when I'm training for a marathon, I do not really race too often. I mean, the last race I ran actually is the shirt I'm wearing right now. Actually,
Okay.
the Healthy Achievement
5K.
5K,
Okay.
and yeah, that was probably the fastest 5K I've run in 3 years. Actually,
And what was that?
1936.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say 20, but okay. You
19.
out here with these young kids.
Oh yeah, I was in the top 10.
Wow.
Yeah, I was running with a young kid at towards the end. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna show you something, young buck, young Thundercats out here.
I love
Show
it.
you something. So that was right before I started my real marathon training. So yeah, there's a race this weekend. Normally I probably would have did it, but nah, I'm towards the end of my marathon training. I have a
Yeah.
race next week that you should come up to next year. It's
Okay.
called the,
Where is it?
Around the Crown in Charlotte.
Okay.
It's probably the second or third largest 10K in the country now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's always going to be around Labor Day weekend. We actually run on the highway over here.
Okay.
It starts right over there where the Carolina Panthers start, stadium at Bank of America and finishes there too. Got a lot of friends coming out from New York, people coming from Atlanta, all over the place to come run this race.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be about 7,000 people.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
running the 10K, and again, I won't be racing that one because I got to race in less than a week from that day.
Right.
So I
Right.
have to chill and kind of hang out and have fun.
Yeah. And
That
just enjoy.
Yeah,
Enjoy.
yeah, enjoy.
Okay.
It'll be my first 10K this year, actually.
Because
So
you didn't come here to do the Peachtree Road Race.
no, I didn't. That's another one I plan to do, and that's always a hot one too. So
It is. Always hot. That was my first no, it wasn't. My first ever race was 5K. It was a virtual 5K with, The Race,
yes, yes.
and I was so excited. I was like, it literally was like the marathon in my head because it was my first race, and it
Mm,
was COVID, and I was with my friends, and I was
mm,
like, "Oh, I'm so excited," and we had, like they had it set up where there was an app and then I was listening and they were like,
mhm,
"All right, guys, it's time to go." It was a lot, but
mm.
we ran on what is it? It's one popular place that people do their training runs. So we ran
Okay.
out there. And after I finished, I was like, I'm so excited. Like it felt like 26 miles to me.
Yeah.
But that was the first one. And then Peachtree was, I think, my first 10K,
Mhm.
and I was like that was my first race where,
Right,
like,
right.
live, and I was like, "This is
Yeah,
crazy."
that's a big one to start off with.
And that's the same one I have my backpack my ear. I
Oh
had
yeah.
2
Mhm.
earbuds, a peanut butter sandwich, gels, juice, water. You were like,
Everything. And like
kidding
2
me right now?
cameras, 2 watches, and
2
I was like,
cameras, 2 watches. I was, like, trying to film. It was a mess, but it was fun.
yeah, yeah, that's definitely fun. Yeah. Yeah, and then we saw each other this year in DC
Yes,
at the
yes.
at the
That
half.
was,
Rock and
that was
roll.
cold. That was that was cold for me. That I think that was probably the coldest race that I've run so far.
Yeah, I'm running colder, but I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was nice. Once we
Because
finished,
it warmed up a little bit by the time we finished. It was good
yeah,
temperatures.
I
And
definitely would do that one again. That was a really nice race. Other than that mountain that just around mile 7, 8, I was like, wow. Okay, you should have told
yeah,
me about that.
but you should be used to that because you got those kind of hills down in Atlanta too. So
Yeah, but it went
it was
like,
just one. It was one hill.
yeah,
It
but
was
it
tough.
was
I ain't gonna lie. It was tough.
right.
But it was just one. It was
Yeah.
just that one. I just like I didn't know what it was too because that was the first time I ran it, and then I'm
Uh-huh.
like running, and then I'm like something don't feel right. I'm like, what's going? This is just too easy. And I'm looking, I say, oh, that bridge looks pretty nice right there. And I was like, wait,
There are people up there.
those people running? How did they get up there? I'm like, oh no. And then you hear the army people, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep my head down and just go. I'm not even gonna look
Uh,
at you. And it was
that's
like,
my technique. I know I'm supposed to look forward, but
yeah,
if it's a hill, I'm literally like just one foot in front of the other because I don't want to look up and be like, dang, I got a long way to go. So I'm just like
yeah.
one foot in front of the other.
And then that top of the hill had that weird, real like extra oomph, and then I could have sworn I heard myself grunt. I was like, ugh.
Oh.
Then I get up there, and people started clapping.
You know it's bad when people clapping like you made it.
Yeah, yeah, basically, yeah. It was like, and then we went down, and I recovered and started running fast. Of course, that was my slowest mile up to that
Yeah.
point. But I was able to pick it up, and then we looking at this like, is that another hill? Oh. A couple ladies started cursing, like, oh, they fell back. I was like, okay, I'm just going to attack this because at some point we had to go back downhill. And the last
Right.
2.5 miles was downhill. You saw
Yeah, that was
half
nice.
roll, and you were
Yeah,
good to go.
that was nice. That was
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, so
Oh,
I did enjoy that, but I was just like, yes, experiences of running, you learn these little things, whether you're beginner, been running for a while or not. It's just things that we learn.
there's some people who like I have a girlfriend, she says she doesn't like to race. She likes to run, but she doesn't like to race. And I get that. To each their own, but
Right.
what I love about the races is that like it just for me it makes me extremely grateful and it makes me I feel like the whole like my whole Be Light brand, I feel like that's a part of it where when I would run and I was like, okay, this is getting really hard, I would be like, I'm just so grateful that I can run. I'm so grateful to be out here. And then like seeing other people, we all struggling at the same time. And I'm like, no, girl, you got this. Let's go, boy. Like that to me, like gives me energy and gives me gas.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. That's why I do like about racing. Is that there's certain things you get and you don't get
Yeah.
by running your own or running even in a group sometimes, depending on
Yeah.
what groups you're in. Some groups are just gratefully helpful and they inspire you. But just racing sometimes you just see certain things that really, really help you and motivate you to finish strong and have fun. And like when you finish, you're gonna get something, a medal
I saw
or
this I saw this guy. He probably was maybe 60. Was he in DC? I think it was DC. I think it was DC. He had the Black Lives Matter flag. Was it
okay.
DC?
I don't remember.
Uh,
Um,
I think it was in DC.
okay.
Yeah. He had a Black Lives Matter flag and it was a real it wasn't a baby flag. It was a
Yeah,
real put in a post and he
right.
was running with it. And I was like, let me hurry up and get caught up to him. I caught up to him and I was like, yo, like this is incredible. Like the whole half marathon, he held that flag up. And I was
Yeah.
just like, man, that was pretty significant for me to see that because I'm barely trying to make it with my own weight.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. So I've seen that. I see people running and like firefighter
Mhm.
suits. Actually, I think somebody ran in football uniform in that race. I think, yeah,
Mm,
I forgot. I think it was Sean Payton's. I think, yeah, I recall because I remember seeing it on the news that night. Had ran that race completely in the full out football gear. So you
yeah.
see things like that. There's also a guy that runs with he juggles the ball in the air the whole way too. I've seen that too. So
Wow.
I've
Yeah,
seen that a
that's
couple marathons. I don't know how they do that with people around them not drop the ball, but
wow. Dogs, I've seen dogs, I've seen, visually impaired people, like, I've seen a
oh yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
It's I
seen
love
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we especially we were running and we catch up to some of the people who are running in the wheelchairs and
Mhm.
congratulating them and and trying to get them to move on is pretty good.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it's great. And then you have all the people who come out early in the morning, some in those cold weather sometimes
yeah,
cheer and volunteers out
yeah.
there supporting us and the police and stuff like that. It's an experience.
It definitely is. I wanna do more cheering and volunteering. I think you were one of the people that were like, "Yeah, it's a whole different thing when you're out
Mm,
there running versus you're out there supporting." I did
mm.
it for a race here, and I was like, "Man, yeah, this is" like, I see, like, me on the other side of it, I look to people to cheer, like, I
Mm.
need that energy, and so when I was on the other side, I was like, "This feels really, really good."
Well, yeah. I mean, they're all aspects of running. They're all needed, and respected. I mean, it's not easy sitting down at a spot volunteering, giving out water, whatever it is you're doing for 4 hours or how long you be.
Right.
It really depends. It's great that we had that support system out there because I've been to some races where the volunteers weren't there or
Mhm.
it's just a whole different vibe,
Yeah.
say speaking. It's just not motivating. You got to motivate
Right.
yourself and
It's
that's why some people come back to some reason than others. Like I
right,
like the rock and roll because I mean, they had bands out there, Miles
right.
Six, and I was singing a song, and
Yeah.
and people probably looking at me crazy. How you doing this? And you're running sub 7 right now. But
I've got a rock and
yeah.
roll, and I'm doing the Vegas one coming up
Oh,
next
you're doing that one. That's the
year.
night run.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
night run.
yeah,
I've been
yeah,
thinking about that one, so I might try to do that one between that one and San Diego. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I
this is
heard
gonna be
San
my
Diego.
second race coming up in a couple weeks in the West Coast, so I'm starting to venture out west finally. So
Okay. That'll be good. That'll be
yeah,
good. Well, Tahir, thank you so much for being on our first people say it's a podcast. I don't know what to call it, but thank you so much for sharing with
yeah.
us today. Is there any final thing that you want to share for any new runner just starting? They're like overwhelmed with all the information. Like, what would you tell somebody just getting started running?
The biggest thing about running or just getting into shape, whatever it is, what are you doing? You just have to be patient with yourself. Forget about whatever you used to do in the past, or if you've never done it in the past. Don't limit what you can do. Some people you'll find out that you're way better than you think you are. But just takes time. You just listen. That's the biggest thing. Please listen to all the people who've done it and actually take it to heart. Don't think that just throw the ego away because in the running game, the people that you think can't run can really run, and the ones you think you can run don't run. So you really just don't know.
Right, right.
Just
Yeah.
get out there, just enjoy the journey because you will have a journey. You have a start. You're going to start out and certain thing, and eventually you're going to see that improvement. And it may happen overnight. It may, like someone says, I remember, I forget which person said it. It's like I train 10 years hard to run for 20 seconds.
That's true. Some people I've seen, they're like, some people are like, "Oh, you made it to Boston. You qualified for Boston." They're like, "You don't know. I've been running for 10 years."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a journey. So
Mm,
whatever it is you're doing, then you have to be running. It could be something else. It could be weightlifting. It can be CrossFit. Whatever it is, you have to take your time
yeah.
and just listen to the experts. Listen to and just be motivated. And the days that you really do not feel like doing it will probably be your best days because you did it. It's a learning.
It's a
It's a learning.
learning experience.
Yep.
So thank you so much. And y'all watching, please like this video, subscribe, share this knowledge with somebody else because y'all right here, I'm telling you, he is a master in this field. So thank you so much, Tahir.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank you, April.